أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ربنا علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد. We have recently been blessed, as I said before, with new friends who, upon hearing of the Iqra principle, want to know what it is. So this talk is for you. Welcome to the first also and the second. We're going to have a brief here. So the first, the second components as well. We're going to speak very briefly about them. What do? We work according to the Iqra principle methodology, which is about Quranic context, as well as Quranic language, Arabi, and how we retrieve it through its Arabic texts and the oldest lexicons, with insight obtained from authenticated tradition and scholarly works. We always reflect upon what? The importance of names. علم آدم الأسماء كلها. The importance of تدبر. أفلا يتدبرون القرآن. Which is about following the words to their dubur, which is the end result or the gist behind them. We spoke also, if you remember, the last two sessions about the divine command Iqra, and we listed the 6 components of the root verb qaraya as defined by our lexicographer Ibn Faris, who died in the year 1004, and as it goes according to his definition, it's about gathering, carrying, or retaining, deliberating or aiming, al-qaṣd, witnessing, to be timely in the now, al-an, al-qara', and to serve and to share, iqra' al-dayf. So all of that is related to the root verb qaraya. Qaraya means all of that. And I asked, if you remember, I told you as well that I asked a specialist in the Arabic language, a linguist. I asked him whether I had to only use one of these as the definition of qaraya, or I can use them all. Because most people use actually the first one, which is gathering. And so they say that qaraya is about something gathered. I asked him if I can look at the meaning and consider them all to be applicable, all together and all at once. He said yes. And when he said that, something clicked in my head, and I started looking, and I found that this is exactly what Iqra means. Iqra is a command to do all of these things together. If you look at all these things, gathering, carrying, retaining, deliberating, witnessing, to be timely in the now, and to serve and to share, you will notice that it's all about what? It's about how we process information and how that information is most beneficial to us and what we do with that information and how we live our lives through that. So, alhamdulillah, that's the result that came out of my question. You should always ask. And last week, we went through the component to carry. Before that, we went to the first component to gather. So now we are going through the third component, and we're going to recognize the Iqra command as a divine command, which is a dynamic to be applied throughout our lives from childhood onward. Yes, from childhood. We can apply it from childhood onward, which is why as parents and grandparents, we should be looking at that as well. And if we go through it, we will recognize the transforming power which this command has. It transformed the first generation, and it can transform us if we apply it. And that is my hope. That is my hope. So again, we're going to mention in brief, a little bit of what we said in the last session and in the session before that, because we are now at the third component, and we have to sort of recall the first and second components before we go forward. So again, unlike any other compilation put together by human hands, Quran is not a qira'ah. It is the only entity on earth named Quran by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's given that name which follows what? The grammatical form fa'lan. It follows the grammatical form fa'lan. It is about communicated information. It is about wahi, which is in the active state. And it is always in the active state. There's not a single point in time when Quran is not in the an. Its name tells you that. It is Quran. But what does it, what is the, how shall I say this? There's something or someone which makes Kitabullah or the book on your shelf, which you call Kitabullah, and it is Kitabullah, there's something which brings it out into life, and makes it Quran. What is that? It is the Qari. Al-Qari yaqra'u al-Quran. So you will always notice in the Quran that whenever the word Quran is there, there's an action. It's not like a kitab. A kitab can be static, while a Quran is active. So, of course, looking at the grammatical form of fa'lan, which is about what? Fa'lan is about something which is emergent and superlative in an active state. It is about something which is superlative, which has reached its utmost, and it's in an active state. That's the most important thing to know about the grammatical form فعلان. Okay? يفيد المبالغة للفعل الطارئ, like جائع and جوعان. جوعان means right now I'm at my utmost state of hunger. جائع means I'm hungry. But جوعان means right now in my utmost state. That's the difference between what? قراءة and Quran. And nothing else is called Quran. It's in an active state and it is in the now, right now. Interactive with its قارئ. So when we do that, when we consider Quran interactive with its qari, and when we are the qari, الذي يتدبر القرآن, right? Trying to understand each word to its dubur, to what's behind it, the gist, okay? When we do that, we restore the message and the recipient, ourselves, to the creator's default. That's the way it was when it started. That's the default. The default is that this compilation is not just a kitab, it is a Quran, and it requires a qari. So what do? We activate a mode which has so far been deactivated, unfortunately. That is why we are where we are as Muslims today. So in brief, about gathering and carrying, which is mainly about us making choices on what to gather and what to retain, what to keep with us and carry, because we gather first and we carry later. Al-jama' wal-haml. These are the first two connotations, or actually denotations, of the word qaraya. So the first one is to gather, and as Ibn Faris tells us, qaraya huwa asl sahih يدل على جمع واجتماع ومنه القرية. So the qarya, or the township, is about that. So a gathering of people. And so everything has to begin with names, and we have to choose what we carry. We have to know what we are carrying. So what do we gather? We gather the good habits, we gather the hasanat, and then we carry them throughout life with what? With the best of friends, inshallah, right? And what else? With the best of reputations, inshallah. So that's what we gather during our life and what we carry throughout our life. And it goes beyond our lives. And as parents, we should also try to help our children do the same, which is gather those things and then carry them throughout their lives. And we also must not forget to let them gather beautiful childhood memories, as that is also something very important to give them throughout their life. Okay, we spoke about reputation. Where is it most important that we have the best of reputations? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the place where it's most important for us to have a good reputation. And we know that Imam al-Shafi'i said, one of his aqwal, it is, رضا الناس غاية لا تدرك ورضا الله غاية لا تترك. Earning people's acceptance is a goal unattainable, while earning God's acceptance is a goal indispensable. فعليك بالأمر الذي يصلحك فالزمه ودع ما سواه فلا تعانيه. So focus on that which improves you and keep at it and let go of all else and do not stress for it. فإرضاء الخلق لا مقدور ولا مأمور وإرضاء الخالق مقدور ومأمور. For earning creation's acceptance is neither at hand nor in demand, whereas earning God's acceptance is both at hand and in demand. So we are, as we said, we first gather and then we carry. And that is what we do naturally in life. But we should be what? Aware of that. If we are doing Iqra, we should be aware of what we are gathering, aware of what we're carrying. Everybody gathers, everybody carries, but we should be aware of what we are doing. Why? Because gathering and carrying would be detrimental without taqwa, without awareness. It would be detrimental. Why? Because it is linked to our base biological drive, our base biological drive, not our insani drive, our bashari drive. The base drive within us is amassing تكاثر. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر. تكاثر is our base biological drive. So let us make sure that we have taqwa awareness, because that's what we need to have all the time. We spoke also, if you remember, in the last session about choosing role models. It's so important to choose good role models, being aware of where we tread. So right, we are walking this life, we are walking in our daily routines, we're doing things, but where are we treading? Where are we stepping, right? We should step anywhere we step with taqwa. We should not be following blindly. There should be awareness of where we are going. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in Surah Al-Isra, 1736? And in this explanation in English, and do not follow the track of that which you have no knowledge of. Do not follow the track of that which you have no knowledge of. Don't just follow blindly. Know where you're going, in other words. And it says, literally, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. لا تقف, do not follow, ما ليس لك به علم. تقف is اقتفاء. اقتفاء is to follow a track. You are looking and following a track. So somebody else's track, that's what you're doing. So we should not be doing that. And we should be more aware also of the Arabi. And look at this beautiful, beautiful piece of information. I did not know that until I researched it and found it out. That the word khatu, which is about following or treading or stepping, right? A footstep, khatwa. Yakhtu is to take a step. I did not know that the word khatu and khata are the same word in what? Al-asl, and their root. Al-khatu wal-khata. It is khatu'a. أصل واحد في معجم المقاييس. كل منها يدل على تعدي الشيء والذهاب عنه. Both of them are about what? Leaving something and going past it. تعدي الشيء والذهاب عنه. فالخطوة, which is the footsteps, is the first step you take to leave something behind. والخطأ من هذا. And the mistake is of this. لأنه مجاوزة حد الصواب. Because by doing that خطأ, you have what? Gone further than the sawab. You have left the sawab, which is the right thing behind, and gone past the sawab. So subhanallah, يقال أخطأ إذا تعدى الصواب. And this is all from our lexicographer. So this shows you that a footstep could be a misstep. It is actually a misstep. A footstep is a misstep. Unless what? Unless there is taqwa. Subhanak ya Rab. Arabi is beautiful. And Al-Zamakhshari, our early exegete, who lived from 1074 to 1143 of the Common Era, which is 476 after Hijrah to 538, he helps us understand that the call in the ayah, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ, the call in that ayah is for the conscious selection of what you want to track or pursue. You track it or push it, that's fine, but consciously, with awareness. And do not copy. Just because you want to emulate or copy anything without knowing what that is and where that will lead you. Because what does he say? He says, look, I'll read it in my explanation in English and then in Arabic. Al-Zamakhshari says, the gist is the prohibition from saying or doing what one has no knowledge of, which openly includes the prohibition of imitation, because one would then be pursuing something, the benefit or harm of which is unknown to him. يقول الزمخشري ولا تقف أي ولا تتبع، يقال قفى أثره، يعني ولا تكن في اتباعك ما لا علم لك به من قول أو فعل كمن يتبع مسلكا لا يدري أين يوصله، فهو ضال. والمراد النهي عن أن يقول الرجل ما لا يعلم وأن يعمل بما لا يعلم, to do what you do not know much about, ويدخل فيه النهي عن التقليد دخولا ظاهرا لأنه اتباع ما لا يعلم صحته من فساده. So taqlid, which is imitation, gets into that initially, unless you are aware, because you don't know where you are going, whether it's good for you or not. So talking about that, we also spoke about what? About influencers. We spoke of being aware or beware of influencers. And we spoke about our ancestors who had influencers. At that time, they were poets. They were called shu'ara. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shu'ara are mass communicators. They were the ones who, spread the news all around, and they were the social media of that time. So what does Allah say about them? He says, وَالشُّعَرَاءُ يَتَّبِعُهُمُ الْغَاوُونَ أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّهُمْ فِي كُلِّ وَادٍ يَهِيمُونَ وَأَنَّهُمْ يَقُولُونَ مَا لَا يَفْعَلُونَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا طبعا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. That is exempt from that are those who have iman and do good deeds, are exempt from being considered of that kind of shu'ara. So that's in Surah Shu'ara 227, Surah 26, 227. So what those poets or shu'ara, mass communicators, what they do is that they are followed by the enticed, al-ghawun. So you find them doing whatever they're doing, influencing, and who's following them? Al-ghawun. Ghawun are those who are enticed, people who are what? Starry-eyed. They don't know what they're doing, they just want to follow them. And Allah is asking us, do you not see that they are roaming thirstily down every avenue? They're roaming thirstily down every avenue, and that they advocate or speak of what they do not do. Subhanallah. So after gathering and carrying our past experiences and information, and the recompense of each, of course, we have the thawab of each, we begin to bear the weight of our choices. We have gathered, and now we are what? We are carrying. What we had gathered earlier is now either enriching us because it was something good that we gathered, or it is what? Burdening us and weighing us down. So we should be very careful of what we have gathered. And when we carry it, we can what? Throw away something. We don't have to carry everything. So we carry a balanced load with awareness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا اتبعوا سبيلنا. Follow us, follow our way. وَلْنَحْمِلْ خَطَايَاكُمْ. We shall carry your misdeeds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا هُمْ بِحَامِلِينَ مِنْ خَطَايَاهُمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. That will never happen. إِنَّهُمْ لَكَاذِبُونَ. They are liars. وَلَيَحْمِلُنَّ أَثْقَالَهُمْ وَأَثْقَالًا مَعَ أَثْقَالِهِمْ وَلَيَسْأُلَنَّ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَفْتَرُونَ. Actually, they shall be carrying. They shall indeed. There's a lam here and there's a noon. Two tawkeeds, two assurances. وَلَا يَحْمِلَنَّ. La is tawkeed and the noon is tawkeed. They shall certainly, affirmatively, certainly, assuredly carry their own what? Misdeeds as weights, okay, their own burdens, and they shall carry the burdens of others with their own burdens, because they were what? They were influencing them, they were guiding them, misguiding them. So they shall carry their own and everybody else's misdeeds on their backs. Subhanallah. So it is up to us to retain what is healthy and helpful and wholesome, at-tayyibat, and to discard everything else, everything that is khabith. Just throw it away. You don't have to carry it. Even feelings of guilt you don't have to carry. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you what? He gave you every prayer. He gave you, even without even actually performing the prayer, you can even just ask forgiveness. You can do that with prayer, but you can do it without prayer as well. Just ask forgiveness. You don't have to carry your burden, whether it's a burden of guilt, whether it's a burden of whatever. And if it's a wrongdoing against another person, what do? You make amends. Islah. Islah is a duty. Our islah is a duty. Our misdeeds against others, which is sayyat, requires reparation. Islah. Takfir and islah. Reparation is takfir and amendment is islah. And they are not forgiven in a similar manner as our dhunub, which we commit between us and God. Between us and God, we just ask him for his forgiveness. Inshallah, he'll forgive us. But what we commit against other, we ask him to help us. كفر عنا سيئاتنا. Cover for us our misdeeds. So it does need takfir, covering. And it cannot be covered sometimes except by you making an effort for it to be covered. So that's what we call reparation and islah, amendment. So we discard the khaba'ith, everything khabith, we retain what is what, at-tayyibat, and we appreciate it. Nashkuruha. What's the meaning of appreciate? As in the opposite of depreciate. Shukr aksul kufr. So shukr is to appreciate something, meaning what? To make it grow. So we retain what is wholesome, tayyibat, and then we make them grow. We use what little we have and make the most out of it, which is the definition of shukr. So how do we differentiate between what to choose and gather, what to keep and carry? How do we differentiate? Or did Allah tell us anything about that? Well, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. So we know that all creatures operate by the qalam. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم. علم بالقلم is general. It's not about الإنسان. Because after that, Allah says, علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. So علم بالقلم is general. علم الإنسان is specific. اقرأ اسم ربك الذي خلق is general. خلق كل شيء. خلق الإنسان من علق is specific. So only إنسان is from علق and only إنسان ما لم يعلم. So now here, how do we differentiate and know what to choose and gather and what to keep and carry? Well, we do that like everybody else does with qalam, but then we have more than that. Last session, we spoke about the qalam. And many of you were surprised to know that qalam is not a pen. Qalam is not a pen. All creatures operate by al-qalam. الذي علم بالقلم. اقرأ اسم ربك الذي خلق, and then الذي علم بالقلم. General. All creatures operate by qalam, which is how God defined for them and imprinted in them and taught them something, which is qalam. What is that? It is how we differentiate. It is filing, literally. Literally, the word qalam means filing. And you're gonna see what I mean in a moment. You're gonna see what I mean in a moment. أصل صحيح, the word qalama is أصل صحيح يدل على تسوية شيء عند بريه وأصلاحه. Literally, qalam, it's about something which we sharpen and make صالح. تسوية شيء عند بريه وإصلاحه. So you sharpen it and it becomes a qalam. And then what did he say? Listen. ومن ذلك قلمت الظفر. I filed my nails. So qalam is filing. ومن هذا الباب سمي القلم قلما. This is why the pencil is called pencil, because we have actually sharpened it to use it. Subhanallah. So what did you notice here? You notice that the word qalam, which we understand as pen or pencil, that's fine. It's a secondary interpretation. The primary interpretation is something that has been filed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught all creatures, allamahum bil qalam, meaning that they identify. If you don't want to use the word qalam as filing, you can use the word as to identify. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I mean, even the plants, they identify in a way, in their own way, in their own way, where the sun is and where the shade is, and they all do what? Turn towards the sun. How do we know? How do we know things without differentiating? We know nothing unless we can differentiate, and that's the qalam. So, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم, very general, بالقلم, and then علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. So all creatures operate by the qalam, which Allah defined for them and imprinted in them, taught them, whereas to our repertoire as insan, there is a huge addition. What is it? Okay, so let's take a look again at Iqra. Iqra باسم ربك الذي خلق. Iqra by the attribute of your Lord Sustainer who created. الذي خلق كل شيء. الذي خلق in general, created everything. Then, that's the first ayah. The second ayah, خلق الإنسان من علق. Okay, so the first ayah is about general creation. The second ayah is about insan's creation. And insan's creation is from علق, which is what? You know, we took it the last session. علق أن يناط الشيء بالشيء العالي. علق is اسم جنس. It's not something like علقة. It's not علقة. It's علق, it's اسم جنس, something else. اسم جنس وهو أن يناط الشيء بالشيء العالي, meaning that Allah created us from a bond, and يناط, which is something to be bonded, بالشيء العالي, from a bond with the high. Allah created al-insan from a bond with, we're not talking about bashar here. We're not talking about your skin and bones and your physical body. That's the bashari part of you. We're talking about the insani part of you, which has the uns, which is all about what? Alaq. Alaq, which is having been created from a bond with the high. So, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق, in general, خلق الإنسان من علق, created the cognizant human alone, okay, specifically, from alaq, a bond with the high, and that's the first distinction. The second distinction is that everything was all creatures that exist are defined or are able to define things, differentiate things by qalam, whereas to our repertoire as insan, what do we have? علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. What does that mean? That he taught or defined for us as cognizant humans alone, specifically, not anybody else. Everybody else is by qalam. We have the qalam, but we have something else as well. What do we have? We have the ability to learn, to devise, to invent something which we did not know before, to keep learning, to keep learning, to keep increasing in knowledge. علم الإنسان specifically ما لم يعلم, that which he did not previously know, that which he did not previously learn, that which he was not previously imprinted with. He has the capacity, as long as he's alive, to keep يتعلم. So the third component of the Iqra principle, which is the third denotation of the root verb qarya, is to deliberate and resolve, literally to proceed with purpose, al-qaṣd, to proceed with purpose. Deliberation, aiming, qaṣd. وقولهم إن القروة القصد. يقول قروت وقريت إذا سلكت. And also, أقصد, if you're telling to somebody أقصد, you mean سدد في مشيك من أقصد الرامي إذا سدد سهمه, meaning you are walking with deliberation, just like a rami, meaning a person shooting an arrow, just like that person, إذا سدد سهمه نحو الرمية, if he is positioning his arrow and aiming it at the target. Zamakhshari said that, meaning what? Al-Qaṣd, which is the third denotation of what? Of the root verb qaraya. It is about aiming and proceeding. And also, we look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beautiful words. And we wonder, are you wondering where to go? Where to aim? It's so obvious. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in so many ayahs. What did he say? أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين in Surah Al-Balad, Surah 90, Ayat 10. Had we not rendered for him, for the insan, had we not rendered for the insan 2 eyes and a tongue and 2 lips, and had we not gift guided him the 2 uphill routes? So we said, if you remember, those of you who know, have been with us for a while, that al-huda wal-hadi is not about guiding only. Hadaynahu, it would be guiding only if you say hadaynahu ila, like we guided him to. But hadaynahu without ila, it's about gifting you, gift guiding you. That's why I call it gift guiding. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, gift guide us, gift us the guidance of, gift us the guidance of, gift guide us. It's not about just guidance, it's about gifting as well. So had we not rendered for this insan 2 eyes and a tongue and 2 lips, and gift guided him the 2 uphill routes, هديناه النجدين. Najdain, the Najd is an uphill route, and it's actually exactly what life is. Life is not one path. Life is a choice between 2 major highways. 2 major highways, the highway of success and the highway of failure. The choice is presented based on what Allah has given you, so many senses, your mind, and all the powers Allah has given you to make the proper choice between those 2 highways. And they are uphill, yes. Neither of them is simple and easy. Both of them require effort. One will take you where? To failure, and the other will take you to success. So those 2 highways, those Najdain, are overlooking the landscape of life and are lined with countless options, some better than others. And it's up to us to choose. And that's why we're talking about what today? Deliberation. Al-qaṣd. So important. Choose, deliberate, think, qaṣd, and choose. Qaṣd. So as we do that, as we dive deep into our 3rd component, we also think of, okay, our qaṣd, our aiming. Where are we aiming? So we want to take those 2 uphill routes. As we said, one of them, we will take the one which is related to success. Where does it lead? Everything we do, we must do liwajhillah, in the direction of Allah. Liwajhillah, even if it is benefiting our own selves and our own families and our own community. Actually, not even if. Let me reword that. Whatever we do liwajhillah is benefiting ourselves and our families, our loved ones, and our communities. Because Allah cannot be served. We say we're doing it in service of Allah, but Allah cannot be served. We actually are in service of ourselves and each other when we say or imagine or think that we are serving God. So you have somebody serving God by going to what? By opening an orphanage. Somebody serving God by being a good person and following Allah's commands. Is Allah being served, or are you being served? Is Allah being served, or is your community being served? So actually you are serving yourself and serving your community when you're doing anything that you say is in service of Allah. So let's just say we are doing it liwajhillah. That's a better word to say than to say in service of Allah. Let's just say we are doing it liwajhillah, because that's what we say in Arabic, liwajhillah. So everything we do, anything we do must be directed towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So being in Allah's service is just a figure of speech. This is what I'm talking about when I say that we have to do something liwajhillah. We should be doing things seeking His direction, which is what the earliest Muslims were doing. The Prophet's companions, peace upon him, were calling upon their Lord morning and night. Why? Why? Yuriduna wajha. They were seeking and imploring and working towards who? Allah's direction. You cannot say wajh and put on it the same explanation that you say about your wajh or my wajh, which is your face. Again, look to the meaning in Arabic. The wajh was only called wajh because of the jiha in which it was directed. Your yad was only called yad, meaning your arm or your hand, because of the power which it held. So the fact that power is the primary connotation and the hand or arm is the secondary. Here also the wajh, the primary is the direction, the secondary is the face. So you do not say seeking Allah's countenance, seeking Allah's face, astaghfirullah al-azim, or you think of the word wajh as face. It is actually direction. So you seek Allah's direction. You seek Allah's direction for that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also told the Prophet, peace upon him, and us in general, واصبر نفسك مع الذين يدعون ربهم بالغداة والعشي يريدون وجهه. Patiently persevere with those who call upon their Lord morning and night, seeking His direction. So يريدون وجه الله. I'm doing what I'm doing, inshallah, لوجه الله, for Allah's sake. That's what we say, for Allah's sake. But what we actually mean is in His direction. لوجه الله. لوجه الله. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that in Surah Al-Ra'd 13:22, that it is their Lord's direction, وَجْهِ رَبِّهِمْ, which is the aim and purpose of those who patiently persevere, are regular in communion, and share the bounties that God has bestowed upon them. They repel bad with good, and their Lord's direction leads them to the ultimate abode. What a beautiful, beautiful ayah. Let's listen to it. والذين صبروا ابتغاء وجه ربهم وأقاموا الصلاة وأنفقوا مما رزقناهم سرا وعلانية ويدرؤون بالحسنة السيئة أولئك لهم عقبى الدار. And those who forbear patiently persevere, those who patiently persevere in beseeching their Lord's direction, ابتغاء وجه ربهم, beseeching their Lord's direction, and establish regular communion, وأقاموا الصلاة, وأنفقوا مما رزقناهم سرا وعلانية, and spend from what we have provided them discreetly and publicly, and repel the bad with the good, يدرؤون بالحسنة السيئة, it is they to whom shall be the ultimate abode. أولئك لهم عقبى الدار. عقبى, remember that word, because we're going to get to that word soon. عقبى الدار, the ultimate everlasting abode, the end result. So we should always remember that when we do anything or we learn of anything, whether it's a hadith or an ayah or even somebody telling us something related to fiqh, we should remember that everything has to be within what? The atmosphere of marḥamah. And that's an atmosphere. Like you say, for example, kitab, it's a book. Kutub are books. And then maktaba is the place where all the books are held, right? So marḥamah is the place of rahmah. Our lives should be what? Instilled with marḥamah, embraced with marḥamah. Our lives should be full of marḥamah, because that's the abode, that's the place, atmosphere which we should be living in. And Allah commands us that. So again, Surah Al-Balad, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْنِ وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْنِ وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. Then فَلَاقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةَ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةُ فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ أَوْ إِطْعَامٌ فِي يَوْمٍ ذِي مَسْغَبَةٍ يَتِيمًا ذَا مَقْرَبَةٍ أَوْ مِسْكِينًا ذَا مَتْرَبَةٍ ثُمَّ كَانَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ. So you have to be of الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, of those who attained faith, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and those who do what? Commend one another. At-tawasi is about commending one another to do something and to carry that generation after generation. That's the wasiyah, to carry something generation after generation. A mutual commendation of sabr, which is perseverance, and marḥamah. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ, and to be in a state of marḥamah. That's where we should be living, in a state of mutual rahmah to each other. So please do not explain anything in the Quran or in the Hadith or in fiqh out of the marḥamah, what? Atmosphere, out of the marḥamah state which we are commanded to do. And here we have what? a hadith, which I'm going to talk about right now very briefly, that Allahumma salli alayhi, Sayyidina Muhammad is reported to have said, مروا أبناءكم بالصلاة وهم أبناء السبع واضربوهم عليها وهم أبناء عشر. So this hadith is commonly understood to mean command your children to pray when they are 7 years old and beat them to do it when they are 10. And I don't want to actually think even. I don't want to even think about the millions of children who were beaten to pray. And it's all based on this hadith, command your children to pray when they are 7 years old and beat them to do it when they are 10, because اضربوهم عليها was taken to mean beat them to do it when they are 10. Although, if you look it up in the lexicon, again, of Ibn Faris, who died in 395 Hijri, he says, يقال للسجية والطبيعة الضريبة كأن الإنسان قد ضرب عليها ضربا. ضرب عليها. I was looking for the word ضرب على in many lexicons. I did not find the word على with ضرب, because in this hadith, اضربوهم عليها. So I had to look through many lexicons to find ضرب عليها. And I found this one here in the معجم مقاييس اللغة. يقال للسجية والطبيعة الضريبة كأن الإنسان قد ضرب عليها ضربا وصيغة صيغة, meaning that the hadith, now if you look at it again, it means what? Muru, command your children to pray when they are 7 and make it a force of habit molded into them when they are by the time they are 10 or when they are 10. ضرب عليها ضربا وصيغة صيغة فهي السجية والطبيعة وتسمى الضريبة. So the term ضرب عليها means to be instilled into one's nature, made a force of habit, second nature, molded into them by the time they are 10. So I'm just showing you this as an example, because this hadith has been explained out of the context of what? Of marḥamah. Everything has to be explained in the context of marḥamah. So it's a much more beautiful hadith. Now it's something we can be proud of, because the word punishment is not an Arabic word. What is Arabic words for punishment? We have lots of words, but they're not for punishment. They mean something else. So Arabi, please. In Arabic, we have the natural consequence or the aftermath that follows an action. It is as per Allah's sunnah, his MO in creation, a negative for a negative, right? And a positive for a positive. On the heels, on the aqab of an action, meaning our deeds bring about their own consequence, their own aftermath, their own end result, their own eventuality. The Lisan al-Arab lexicon tells us that uqb and uqba and aqiba of anything is its ending. As for the word iqab, which is the one word which we customarily translate as punishment, it is of the same root verb, and therefore it bears what? Similar connotations. However, the way it appears in the Quran, wallahu a'lam, that's what I've seen so far, it indicates something which is unlike the words which we just mentioned, which is uqba and aqiba. It seems to be the consequence that follows fast on the heel of the bad deed, meaning it's a worldly consequence that one gets. As we see in Surah Al-Imran 11, كدأب آل فرعون والذين من قبلهم كذبوا بآياتنا فأخذهم الله بذنوبهم والله شديد العقاب. أخذهم بذنوبهم. Who? Al-Fir'aun. They got it immediately. So they're going to get something else later, but they got this one immediately. Wallahu shadidul iqab. You see the iqab here? Wallahu a'lam. So what we do know for a fact, however, is that all of these words relate to aqaba, which is the heel. My heel is my aqab. Your heel is your aqab. And aqab is something that comes upon the heel of something else, so it's a consequence. That's the meaning of aqiba, uqba, uqba, all of them, they are on the heels of another deed, an eventuality. The outcome, if you want to say. So what happens when, let's say, somebody gets married, and then you have somebody next to you who's not married? What do you say? عقبالك. You say in Arabic, عقبالك. عقبة لك, meaning we wish you the same عقبة. May this outcome be yours. We're not talking about punishment, unless, well, you're going to have a bad marriage. But what I mean is that if something good happens, you look at your friend and you say, عقبالك, عقبالك, meaning I wish you the same what? Outcome. So it's what happens after something else, the same consequence, the same outcome. So, and we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us also in Surah Al-An'am, من جاء بالحسنة فله عشر أمثالها. It's not one. Allah gives you an eventuality, the consequence of your deeds. If they are good deeds, it's not just one consequence, one good consequence, it's 10 and even more. إلى 100 ضعف. ومن جاء بالسيئة فلا يجزى إلا مثلها وهم لا يظلمون. He that comes forth with a good deed, من جاء بالحسنة فله عشر أمثالها, shall have 10 times as much. ومن جاء بالسيئة, and he that comes forth with a bad deed, فلا يجزى إلا مثلها, shall only be recompensed according to it, and they shall not be wronged. The Quran shows us that whatever good coming our way is from God, whereas whatever bad coming our way is from ourselves. ما أصابك من حسنة فمن الله وما أصابك من سيئة فمن نفسك. Okay? What befalls you of hasana is from Allah, of good. What befalls you of sayyah is from yourself. That's something we should know. It's in Surah An-Nisa 79, Surah 479. And then we speak about generalities. وما أصابكم من مصيبة فبما كسبت أيديكم ويعفو عن كثير. Collectively, we happen to inflict much harm upon each other, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, dispels much of it so that it does not touch us. What comes your way of affliction, what befalls you of affliction, ما أصابكم, what befalls you of affliction, من مصيبة, is by what your hands have committed, meaning plural. كسبت أيديكم, so it's general. So we harm one another. And he absolves much. He forgoes much. He lets much of what the harm we do to each other, he lets much of it pass. It goes. He lets much of it pass. So, subhanallah, even when we look at what we might call catastrophes or natural disasters, even the natural disasters could have been of a smaller degree of harm if people had done things right, as in building requirements, as in taking care of oneself, taking care of each other. A lot could have been averted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is the one who يعفو عن كثير, who absolves much, he forgoes much, he lets much of the harm we create just go, vanish. Much of it, he lets it go and vanish. Our world, our bodies, our bodies heal themselves. This earth heals itself. If we allow it to, it heals itself. That's part of Allah's يعفو عن كثير. We harm ourselves, we harm our bodies, but our bodies have ways of healing itself as well if we are careful. So that is Ar-Rahman, our most compassionate creator. Ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahman, علم القرآن, خلق الإنسان. Just remember that he is Ar-Rahman. And he is Ar-Rahman because he created the insan. When Iblis was told to prostrate, he did not prostrate. Although before that, he was worshipping God as God would have been pleased to be worshipped. But when Adam was created and God told him to bow to Adam, he refused. And that is why the Quran says, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ كَانَ لِلرَّحْمَنِ عَصِيًّا. He disobeyed Ar-Rahman. He did not disobey Allah. He disobeyed Ar-Rahman, meaning that he disobeyed Allah in his Rahmaniyah of having created Adam. Ar-Rahman, allama al-Quran, khalaqa al-insan. In that aspect, he disobeyed. And with that, we conclude. Our talk today was about the Iqra principle, methodology, and the 6 components of the root verb qarya, and the importance of names. We paused briefly on the first and second components, to gather and to carry, to retain, and the importance of careful choices made with taqwa, made with awareness. The third component, in detail, we went through it, to deliberate, to resolve, literally to proceed with purpose, ma'al qaṣd, with aim. And we noticed that our choice is between 2 najdain, between 2 major highways, the highway of success and the highway of failure. As long as we are directed towards Allah, we are on the highway of success, inshallah, even if it is done for our own benefit, or actually it is always for our own benefit. Serving him is actually serving ourselves and our communities. We do it liwajhillah. And that everything we think of, understand in the Quran and the Hadith should be understood or taken in a spirit of marḥamah, in an atmosphere of marḥamah. That is Ar-Rahman's M.O. Marḥamah. That's the most important thing. If we don't find marḥamah in the command, then we look again. Maybe we did not understand what that word means, like the word فَاضْرِبُوهُمْ عَلَيْهَا. And so we also stopped to discuss the meaning of iqab and aqiba and uqba, and they are all consequence, and that is the result of what we have done, coming at the heel of the deed. And we realize that God only sends us goodness, Jalla wa ala, and that success awaits us if we strive for it. And with that, we come to the end of our talk today, and we will listen to Khawatim Surat Al-Baqarah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين.